Good afternoon. My name is Leslie Miller, and I'm representing Washington PTAC. And we are here today in partnership with the Small Business Transportation Resource Center and working for the Port of Seattle on this PortGen series of events. So welcome aboard. And I see we have some guests here today. We're going to have two sessions this afternoon. The first session will be with Tamara Hamill, and we'd like to acknowledge her today as she sits waiting for her turn. And then also Tina Boyd is also here from the Port of Seattle. Welcome, Tina. And Mian Rice has joined us also. So our SBTRC representative, Aisha Kadri, will join us in a few moments. But in the meantime, I'd like to open this up to the Port of Seattle to just say a few words. So Mian, if you have a moment, would like to share some thoughts, we'd like you to do a little presentation.
Thanks for allowing me to actually say something. Hello, everyone. My name is Mian Rice. I am the Director of Diversity and Contracting Department for the Port of Seattle. And a lot of our work and a lot of our efforts in terms of really trying to improve our contracting efforts, especially having diverse businesses to be part of the Port of Seattle, falls into people like Tamara Hamill that you'll be hearing from Central Procurement Office, from Tina Boyd and Lawrence Coleman and a lot of other folks, including your partnerships. And I will be here throughout the event today. And you got to forgive me, I got a little cold here. But nonetheless, I just wanted to make sure I say thank you, and I really appreciate allowing me to be here and be able to say a couple words. And thank you, PTAC, for all your support and partnerships, as well as SBDRC as well. So here we go. And Tina, am I missing anything?
All right, I'm Tina Boyd. I'm with me and the Diversity and Contracting team. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And again, like Nick said, please take advantage of this opportunity. You will have people like Tamara, and I said her name wrong. I didn't call her Tamaka. You have the experts here in our procurement office. So please come with your questions. This is an opportunity to ask. And I will be here like Mian if you have any specific questions towards our diversity and contracting policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. I think that we will go ahead and move on to Tamara, who's going to talk to us a little bit today about procurement. And so also, Tamara, if you can just give us a little background as to your position with the Port of Seattle and just an overview of your department.
Great, sure, I'd love to. Hi, everyone. My name is Tamara Hamill, and I'm with the Port of Seattle Central Procurement Office. I'm in the Service Agreements Group, which is the consulting services group. The Central Procurement Office handles all of the purchasing for goods and services. It handles all the construction, all the design work, and monitors all the issues the contracts and monitors the contracts. So we are a large group of people that are, here to help any of you that need help if you want to do business with us. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get into my presentation. Great. Okay. So my presentation is Consulting 101, Tips for Becoming a Consultant with the Port. Oops, moved a little too fast here. So in the consulting group, first the service agreement group, which is what I belong to, We solicit several different types of contracts. A lot of it is, we're providing a big list here, but we do a lot of architectural and engineering type of contracts. There's a lot of planning contracts that we have, maritime, environmental, and environmental services are what I support the most, but other people support our airport dining and retail group. And that would be like architect and engineering services for them, designing restaurant spaces and things like that, storefronts and whatnot. We also have construction management, which our engineering group takes advantage of. And we procure for copywriting, editing, facilitation services, community outreach, that kind of thing. There's so much more. And so please keep an eye out on our solicitations that we have. They are on our, what we call our Vendor Connect site. And if you click on that site, you'll see all of every solicitation that we have will pop up, and you'll be able to look at all the documentation for those and see what kind of status we're in with that. So here's what our Vendor Connect site looks like to start out. You'll want to register. Well, you don't have to. You can look at anything that you want to look at on our site. However, if you decide to register and log in or register, your account will be approved, and then you'll go ahead and be able to become a plan holder on our site, which means that you are putting yourself out there for teaming arrangements with prime contractors that are interested in, or prime consultants that are interested in teaming up with any kind of firm that would be out there that is interested in playing with our procurement process. So once again, our Vendor Connect site allows you to look at all of our opportunities. You can download solicitation documents. You can register for notifications, which would, you could upload, if you uploaded your statement of qualification for your firm up into your site, when we go to look for a smaller contract that we can pull off of our roster, we could do business with you. So we have rosters for all sorts of services here. So please do register and upload your information, because we do pick firms from that list. When you get onto a project that you're interested in, go ahead and join a plan holder list on the solicitation. You'll get automatic updates. So if we have an amendment or an addendum that comes out on the solicitation, we will email you about it. And you'll be able to also register for any pre-proposal meeting or any other kind of a meeting that we might be having in regard to that solicitation. It also allows you to ask questions. So during the solicitation process, the solicitation is open for asking questions, at which point you can ask for, you can ask pretty much any question in regard to the solicitation itself. So keep that in mind. And it's a great way of getting things clarified if there are issues. Sometimes there are mistakes on the solicitation document. Point that out to us. We want to correct any kind of issues that might be out there. So we conduct pre-proposal conferences for all of our procurements that are 200,000 and over. The date and time are in the solicitation document, but it's also noted on the Vendor Connect site. If you're interested in being a prime or a sub-consultant, pre-proposal conferences provide a setting to do some networking. Once we sign off, you're welcome to hang out on that site and talk to other firms if you want. So it allows you to meet other local small businesses and build connections for future work. So we have two types of services that we deal with in the service agreements group. We have professional and we have personal. And that difference, there's different ways that we procure those services. So for professional services, that's contracts for architectural and engineering services. It's also landscape architecture and land surveying. I don't know why those are called out separately, but they are. And they're services rendered by a consultant or a person, a sole proprietor, that wants to contract to perform services for us, and in the architectural or engineering realm. Professional services are qualifications-based selection. We have a competitive process. We have to advertise everything, and the consultants are selected based on demonstrated competence and qualifications for the type of work needed. Price cannot be a selection criteria. And we will negotiate a contract or contracts with the highest rated firms, which are the most qualified consultants. And so when we do negotiate, the rates must be fair and reasonable, and we'll get into that a little bit. Personal services are basically everything that's outside of architectural and engineering. So that would be copywriting, editing, that would be the facilitation kind of contract. But it is, an expertise provided by a consultant to accomplish a specific study, project, task, or other work statement, which may not reasonably be required with any kind of a connection to public works project. They also might be connected to a public works project, but they're not required to be at all. So on personal services, cost information is requested as a part of the proposal. And the court utilizes best value criteria to determine the selection. We'll get a little bit into that for later on. And after the qualification rating is complete, pricing is analyzed. We'll talk about that again a little bit. So the court also has two types of contracts that it deals with. What's called an IDIQ, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. And by that, they mean indefinite delivery up to the amount of the contract. And the IDIQ contracts are not the money does not get added to them. So that's why you'll see some very large prices on the IDIQ contracts. The contract will have a general scope of work. It will have the hourly rates, and we'll issue service directives against it to weed out a scope of work and a level of effort. Project-specific contracts will have a specific scope of work and what we call a LOE, level of effort. They are negotiated up front, and we expect that hopefully it won't go past what has been negotiated up front. But on occasion, things happen, designs change, and requirements change, and so sometimes things do end up getting expanded on a project-specific contract. A lot of our contracts require insurance coverages. So it'll be auto, general liabilities, errors and omissions. Sometimes if you're working over water, you will end up having to have a vessel insurance in place. Those can be expensive. So you'll be required to give us a certificate of insurance that will meet the requested amounts within the service agreement that's published in the solicitation, and along with the endorsements. Within our service agreement, we do require certain things. One is that you have a Washington UBI number, that you have workers' compensation, and that's if it's applicable. If you're a company that's in Washington State, you're going to have some sort of workers' comp unless you're a sole proprietor. We also require federal taxpayer ID, and that you're not debarred on either Washington state or federal lists. So a tip for a successful proposal. We want you to structure your proposal in the same order as the evaluation criteria. That makes it really easy for the selection team to go through and understand how you're meeting the needs of what it is we're soliciting. Please identify how project examples are relevant to the solicitations project. And for project-specific contracts or solicitations, select project experience that covers most or all elements of the scope. You don't have to have everything, but it might be best to team up with some other firms that would give you everything that's required within the scope of work. For IDIQ contracts, select projects that are representation of the range of projects that might come up in an IDIQ, with the majority showcasing core competencies addressed in the scope of work. Be succinct where appropriate. In some cases, less is more. Please, before you send it out, have someone else proofread it for spelling mistakes, grammar, and overall flow. Stay within the page count, otherwise sections over the page limit will be removed. The word may is wrong there. They will be removed. Research RFPs and proposals from other state, local, federal agencies. And if you want, do a public disclosure request to view submittals as successful consultants from the previous solicitation, if there was one. Everything's on our Vendor Connect site, so you should be able to look at previous submittals through with a PDR. Okay, so our interview process is it can be a little daunting if you're not used to interviews, but plan ahead to ensure availability for the interview date is listed on the solicitation. So if you're looking at that interview date, it might be good to set it aside or make a note on that day or those days that you might be called for an interview. Interviews are often conducted at SeaTac Airport or Pier 69 headquarters when they're doing in-person interviews. Currently, we're conducting all of them by MS Teams or Zoom. Generally, the selection panel for the port would consist of 3 to 5 subject matter experts and me or one of my coworkers. Presentations are not allowed usually. For A&E, they are never allowed. But for some situations with personal services, they may be. They last about an hour with 8 to 10 questions and expect at least one scenario kind of a question. So be sure to read the scope of work and think about, oh, what might they ask us? Questions may not be given ahead of time but they may be provided in writing during the interview. So when you're in the interview, respond to each question with an example and use examples other than Port of Seattle experience. Now, the reason we say that is that we want to see something cool you've done somewhere else. We don't want to hear about our projects again. And sometimes that's because you may have thought it was a good project, but we may have thought it really wasn't a good project. So, but there are ones that, we do have where it is a good project all the way around for both the consultant and the port. But sometimes it's all in the eye of the beholder. So when you're planning for your interview, use the STAR technique. It's situation encountered, tasks that needed to be accomplished, the action you took, and the result. And the result is very important to us. There'll be times when we ask you, tell us about a project that didn't go very well and how you turned that around. Those kind of questions do get asked. Develop mock interview questions with your team using the solicitation and the scope of work. We can tell the difference between firms that do practice and firms that don't. Your interview team should consist of key personnel on the project and generally a mix of management and technical experts. I always say try to keep the participants to 6. Some people don't like to limit it. Some contract administrators don't like to limit it. But 6 to 8 is about enough time for everyone to have an opportunity to participate in the interview. So keep that in mind. We have one of our projects managers also said, I don't want to see the shiny shoe guys. I want to see the people that I'm going to be working with every single day. So don't bring the boss from New York City. Have the people that are going to be working with us right in front of us. So the person that will do the work should respond to the questions. So if you've got sub-consultants there that are going to be performing certain aspects, we would expect to hear from them. So do include them as part of your interview team if they are a key member. So we do have what we call discussions that take place on personal services contracts. So following the interviews, we may conduct discussions regarding the technical proposal and the diversity and contracting inclusion plan. We'll identify any material weaknesses, and we may ask you to go back and revise. It is an informal conversation and is not rated. Based on the information acquired during the discussion, we may issue an addendum requesting a revised proposal and or a diversity and contracting inclusion plan. And this is a rare and very valuable opportunity to improve on your proposal if it does happen. So our selection criteria rating process reflects how the written proposal meets or doesn't meet the minimum performance capability requirements through assessment of strengths, weaknesses, and risks. An assessment of technical risk, which is manifested by the identification of weaknesses, considers potential for disruption of schedule, increased costs, degradation of performance, the need for increased oversight, or the likelihood of unsuccessful contract performance. We don't want to go through the entire contracting process to have any firms be unsuccessful. So here's our criteria rating that we're using at this time. We use adjectives. And so you'll see that outstanding indicates an exceptional approach and understanding of everything that could happen on this contract. Their risk of unsuccessful performance is low. We have good means, hey, they've got a great understanding of the requirements, and it has at least one strength, and risk of unsuccessful performance is low. Acceptable is meets the requirements, indicates adequate approach and understanding. Risk of performance is no worse than moderate. Marginal is bad. That means you haven't demonstrated an adequate approach or understanding of the requirements, and the risk of unsuccessful performance is very high. And once we get to unacceptable, it means you're not even in the ballpark. And we wonder why you are even looking at our solicitation, because you haven't demonstrated that there's a reason for us to be looking at your submittal. So we don't want unacceptables, but we also don't want firms wasting their time sending in a proposal that would be unacceptable. So keep that in mind. So our consensus process, our evaluation team rates each proposal and based on the evaluation criteria. Deliberations take a lot of time. I want to call it arm wrestling. Sometimes we do have some arm wrestling that happens. And by that, I mean that one selection team member may say, oh, wow, I think this team is great. And the 2 other or 3 other people will say, where did you get that? Because we don't see how they're great. And so please explain to us what makes them so great. And then the ones that didn't think they were so great might end up pointing out issues that they saw. So it's a fun discussion to have and interesting. Our entire process is confidential. Only the procurement team members have access to the meetings and the materials. Selection is made during this meeting. Selection would be made after the notice of selection or the interviews have happened. So first we have what we call a shortlisting process, which is reviewing the proposals and determining which firms are in the competitive range. And then we hold our interviews, and then we have a second consensus meeting and make our selection on our contract for our consultant. Negotiation and on personal services. So what we do is make a qualitative assessment of your proposal differences and determine whether one proposal is better than the other, not including cost at the moment. So as proposals become more technically equivalent, costs may become more important. And price is an important factor. However, it's not the sole determining factor. We may engage in discussions with the shortlisted firms prior to selection to clarify any outstanding issues. And we may continue negotiations after award to come to a lower price. And that may be because when you were putting your price package together, you may have emphasized something more than what we had thought it might cost, or prices have changed. We understand what inflation is these days, but also, and so that might affect that our cost estimate is lower than what real life pricing is for a certain thing, because time has gone by. That does happen. But we may do some negotiating to lower the price. So on professional services, we make what we go through the consensus process for the interview or the submittal, shortlisting, and the interview. And after award, you'll be asked to submit rates on what we call a firm input form. And that's a spreadsheet that we'll send you. We use a variety of market data sources to analyze proposed rates and negotiate. We have 5 data sources actually at a minimum that we're looking at. So it's all for the Seattle, Tacoma, Bremerton, Everett area. The port reserves the right to conduct negotiations after the selection to lower cost and price. But that's on the hourly rates for professional services. If the port does not receive the firm input form within the specified time frame, or is unable to finalize negotiations, we may cancel negotiations and go to the next highest ranked firm, or we may cancel the procurement. We don't like to cancel the procurement. Procurements are very expensive to conduct, so we try to avoid that at all costs. So here in our negotiations, we have an overview of the rate negotiation process, and it's located at this website. And it's a flow chart that shows how many days for this and how many days for that are expected. And here's a sample of our firm input form. We ask for the company name, the person's last name, first name, highest degree, the college degree, major primary field of study, years of experience, any certain state licenses. We have a common list of titles, position titles to choose from that we have data on. And then we would expect a level that you would assign according to information that's in that firm on another spreadsheet within this firm input form. It also asks for the hourly rate and what we call the fully burdened labor rate. And then that document is, once it's received by the contract administrator, it's reviewed with the requesting department representative, and then it's sent on to our rate analyst. Our rate analyst will review the rates and will come back with what they believe are accepted rates and what we might want to consider negotiating. So that takes a little bit of time, and it happens quite often that we accept usually about half or more, and we have about a quarter that we end up having to negotiate. During the contract time, after it's been executed, you'll be required to report monthly amounts paid documents or documentation on each subconsultant prior to the, oh, I'm sorry, I messed this up. You'll report monthly amounts paid for each subconsultant for the prior invoicing period. This information is submitted electronically using Port's contractor database system. And so you'll refer to section 3 of the service agreement for more information. The MAPS reporting is how we determine how much is being paid to each subconsultant, and if you are meeting your WMBE requirement that you proposed and that is in the service agreement document. You'll also want to check with a Port project manager on requirements and expectations for invoices. I know in the environmental group, they have a different way of requesting invoices than other groups have. So you'll want to make sure that you're going to be submitting properly. If the Port project manager is unresponsive, please reach out to us. We want to help you. We will go and poke the project manager and say, hey, what's going on here? And we are here to help you be successful in your contracting experience with the Port. And I can't reiterate that enough. Please feel free to contact us. It is very important that you do that. We don't want things falling off and not being responded to. So with that, I'm winding it up. And if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to address them. With that, I'm going to.
There's actually a couple here in chat for you. If you'll note, Leslie asks if you could explain the debarment process and where to get more information.
Okay. Washington State has a debarred contractors list, and that's what we look on to make sure that a contractor is not debarred. Being debarred means that a firm may have done work without their licenses in place, and they need help, or they may end up being behind on taxes that may be required or something of that nature. On a federal level, it's the same kind of thing. So okay.
So Tamara, this is Leslie. On the debarment process, do you debar individuals as well as companies?
The Port does not debar anyone. The state debars.
Oh, okay.
Consultants and contractors, and most of the time it's contractors that are debarred. It's not. I don't think I've ever found a debarred consultant.
Okay. At the federal level, you can find the list of federally debarred individuals and companies on sam.gov. And if anybody, wants to find out how to do that, Washington PTAC has a lot of resources to walk you through that process. One of the things that that we recommend as PTAC is if you are hiring someone to, be an integral part of a contract, in their employee file, you should have their debarment status. And at the federal level, it'll say no report. And then, I don't know if the state level, if you were to query somebody, does it come up and say no report, or, you just have to reference this whole list?
Well, the nice thing about their search engine that they have for Washington State, you can just type in the company name and it will, it'll say whether they have any information on them or any debarment information. So it's a very handy website to use.
So Tamara, does this also include any state institutions that receive federal funding? Is this, they use that one resource for debarment, or?
Both. We use both the Washington State and the SAM website.
Okay.
Look at both of them all the time. That's a requirement for our responsibility checks that we do on firms.
Okay, thank you.
I think in the chat here, a question came up about small business and compared to the federal definition, and that's been explained in the chat by me, and there's no difference. However, if the port is receiving federal dollars from USDOT, we must follow DOT small business program, which means utilization of federally certified DBE firms.
I had a quick question. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Yes, go ahead.
On that firm input form, is that a level classification internal to us, or did you guys come up with that based on the previous field?
I tell you what, I'm gonna pull up that firm input form and I'll show you what I'm talking about.
All right, thank you.
Second here. So when you're the lucky successful consultant that gets to work with us, we will send you this this form. It's got different tabs to it. The first page is instructions. The second is the firm input form. So we've got all of this here. Here we've got a list of what common titles that we use to determine reasonable rates. And it's a very long list. Very 133 as of this publication. And it lists this SOC codes, standard occupation codes. And here's a job level guideline. Okay, so I know it's hard to see, it's very small. Let me see, I'll blow this up and we can go through just a couple of them. These are the guidelines as noted by ACEC, and they are a professional organization. And so what happens, so what they're looking at is what the characteristics of people are, how much direction do they need, what kind of duties and responsibilities, what responsibility they have for directing others. And it's got their typical position titles, as well as it shows years of experience. So you can see that here we've got listing for a bachelor's degree and a master's degree and a PhD. Okay, so for this level 1 person, this person is like brand new, fresh out of college, not a whole lot of experience at anything, you know, not really any work experience at all. They're doing you know, different type of data gathering or you know, things that someone fresh out of college would do to get some experience. They also have they're not managers at all. They don't have any responsibility for other people. And a typical type of a position title for them would be a staff or a junior engineer or scientist kind of thing. A typical registration we would expect to see might be engineer, EIT or SIT. This is also got here. And we would expect that person to have 0 with a bachelor's degree. We would consider it to be 0 to 2 years of experience would be a grade 1, level 1 person. 0 to 1 years for a master's degree and a PhD. Over here for a level 2 person, see we're bumping up a little bit on the years of experience. Master's degree doesn't require much more, neither does a PhD. So here we've got a level 3, someone with 6 to 9 years experience with a bachelor's degree, 4 to 7 years with a master's degree, 2 to 5 with a PhD, and so on. It goes up and up as far as years of experience. The more senior level people, these are, you know, often the owners of the company that have been doing this work forever, and they're the brilliant people that end up being the high level technical expert type of people. So then we've also got ratings for support staff, like project assistants, technicians, CAD and admin, and same kind of thing, bachelor's degree, master's degree, amount of responsibility for others, how much, what are their typical responsibilities that they do. And so now here utilizing the ACEC ASCE guidelines, this is what we would expect a manager principal to be doing, this type of work. Technical expert. They're the brilliant people, super brilliant people that we all know. Project manager, the person running the project, they can be super brilliant people too, but maybe they like to keep their hands in the projects. And then so on. It goes down the list here. And then on this last tab, we have kind of a fuzzy, sorry to say, a fuzzy representation of how a negotiation process would work. We issue the notice of selection. We send you the firm input form. You enter in all the information for your people. Return it to us within 7 business days. We respond in a few days with counter offers if we need to. And then you've got 7 days to review and respond to the court counter offers. The court will respond with counter offers to the second round. And it probably end up setting up a meeting at this point in time to do a in-person kind of a Teams call or a Zoom call or something, so that we can try to speed up the process a little bit. We might be able to, you know, I might have to say, hey, for this position, I can only offer you 1 1/4. And you've got 130 up there, but the highest I can go is 1 1/4. And that's right at the top of my list. Can we handle working with 1 1/4? You know, sometimes it's yes, and sometimes it's no, let's meet in the middle, you know. And so meet in the middle works also. So anyway, once all rates are accepted, we'll let you know, and we'll prepare our final fee schedule and approved personnel list and the contract, and you'll sign it, and then we'll sign it, and then we'll be in business. So This is the overview of the firm input form that we would send you if you were a successful consultant.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Great document. Appreciate that.
And the port, you know, we do have a minimum of 5 data points that we do look at. But once we have that information from you on the firm input form, we may end up asking for, okay, 2 other items. There may be provide us with direct labor and your overhead, or provide us with 2 invoices from other agencies that you're performing the same type of work as you will under this contract. And that tends to speed up our negotiation process. If the market is truly allowing for that, for what you're billing another agency, then that's what the market is allowing. So we want our consultants to be successful. We want them to make a profit. Granted, we are a public firm, and so we want that profit to be what we consider to be fair. But it allows us to understand what a fair rate truly is. So we want everybody to be successful and come out whole in the end, and have some great projects and build great relationships.
So Tamara, can you give us a quick overview as to the major stumbling blocks for a company, trying to do business, with the Port of Seattle? Do you see some common things that need to be rectified before they can move forward?
Well, sometimes it can, in the submittal process, things I've seen happen are that firms make the mistake of putting a picture in a submittal, and they end up calling it Mount Hood or something like that. And somebody on the selection team will go, "That's not Mount Hood, that's Mount Baker." And I know because I climbed it. Don't lie in your submittal at all. That's one of the things I would definitely say. Don't mislabel things. Don't use, have somebody else, I truly believe in the QA process. Have somebody else look everything over and, and be ready. But also keep in mind that working with the port has some kind of additional hidden expenses that come along. And some of that deals with badging. If you're on the maritime side, you've got to have TWIC cards for your people. If you're in the airport side, you have to go through the FAA background check, which requires people to go through testing, especially if you're going to be driving on the airport or in the what we call the airfield operations area or the air movement area. So we've got the AOA and the AMA, and so you're driving around big planes that cost billions of dollars, and so the insurance is very high. All right, it can be $5 to $10 million for auto insurance. So that's something to keep in mind when you're figuring out what your overhead's going to be on this project. Also, and on top of that, the badging. Going back to the badging again, it truly is. It's kind of a crazy thing. It can take a couple. You send your person to the airport or your people to the airport. Some of them have to get trained to be signers to allow for other employees to come and get badges. And but there is a testing situation that they have to go through for that. It can take up to it'll probably take about a half a day actually to get that person all the way through all the testing and through the preliminary badging portion of having a contract with the port. So those are things to think about. It's not cheap to do business with us, but the projects are very cool. that happen on both the maritime and the air aviation side, and you know, you can have a really interesting time working a Port of Seattle project.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Thank you. Last week, we had representatives from Shrewsbury's and Associates, and they addressed maybe some upcoming projects at the airport. So is there anything on your radar that you can share with our audience today as to, you know, forecasting or what's coming down the road?
Yeah, I'm going to take you to our Vendor Connect site, which share my screen here. Once again. We've got the seasonal allergies going on here. So here, this is the page that when you come to our Vendor Connect site and you click on solicitations, this is what you'll see. You'll see a whole bunch of open projects that are here. And there's pages and there's,
Wow.
and here's our future projects also. Here's a list of ones that will be coming, and this gives you an idea. So MC stands for major construction, and this is one that they expected to have happen in 2020. Here's one that's 2022. Here's one that's actually got a contract number to it. So it's in development. They may be bidding that soon. And but here, so here, these are, so it's we all number our things differently. This here is for goods and services. You'll see there, it's goods and services over here. And here's the contract administrator that's dealing, or the buyer that's dealing with that. Here's a small works contract. Here is a service agreement contract. And this one is open at the time. And so here, I'm going to go ahead and take you into what it looks like to play with the ports on the port side here. This is a small contract. And for some reason, they're advertising this. I don't understand why, but oh, I see. This is the South King County Fund Environmental Grants. Okay, so that's a whole different thing. I shouldn't have brought you to this one. Let me go back to solicitations here. Page. So we don't have much out there right now. But on our future solicitations page up here, we have a whole list of everything that's going to be coming up. And you know, if we have an idea of the ROM that's that is out there or available to us, we'll put it out there. So here's a whole bunch, and this is all major construction group. You can look over in the category here. Here we've got some consulting services, TBD. Got some other future things going on, other airline realignment, construction management. We need construction management people really bad. So that is important to us also. And here we've got airport signage. Okay, we've got apartments noise program. We do insulate apartments that have large or are impacted highly by noise from the airplanes and the operations of the airport. Here we have an architect design services IDIQ. Usually when we have one of these kind of contracts, we are issuing 3 or 4 or 5 contracts at a time. So it can be lucrative to look into those if you are a A&E type of a firm. ARF here, we shouldn't be using acronyms, but that's airfield or airport rescue firefighter. So that's the aviation division. I think they're getting they might be getting a new building on the west side of the airport, I believe. But here's, to be determined yet, but aviation planning services, baggage optimization phase 3, those are usually huge contracts, $60 million worth, because they're putting in baggage handling equipment, and it's crazy. So these are all the different types of things that are coming up. And so, feel free to shop around and look around at the different solicitations that are out there. Let me see if I can. Don't have a good one for. I don't have anything open for consulting services right now, which I find very odd. But this is our Vendor Connect site, and you are welcome to noodle around there all you want, and maybe join in on some active solicitations that might be out there that you're interested in.
Well, thank you, Tamara. That, it's beyond comprehension how complex the projects are that you're doing. You really run the gamut on all aspects from the ground up into the air.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and below ground, or below sea level too. There's plenty that we're trying to, plenty of rivers and plenty of land that we are trying to clean up. And that because we do own a lot of sites that are Superfund sites.
Oh.
And so those are what our environmental group deals with. And so our aviation, our environmental group, our maritime deals with everything that's water related in the Seattle Bay area, and the aviation group deals with everything around aviation environmental, deals with everything around the airport. And so, and usually it's because we buy property that was a gas station a while ago, and so now we got to clean it up. So, but that's what one of the missions of the port is. So, anyway, I appreciate the time. I have enjoyed being with you today, and look forward to any contact that needs to happen in the future. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Tamara. We were really excited to have you on board today. And, coming up, we'll have another session from the Port of Seattle. But I think for right now, we'll see if there's any additional questions. And if there's no additional questions, maybe we'll take a short break and come back in like 10 minutes or so, if that works for everybody. And we'll let our next presenter get queued up, and we'll do some more introductions at that time. So,
Leslie, hi, I'm sorry, Leslie, this is Tina Boyd. I just want to say, Tamara and I work really, and our department work really closely. Tamara has participated on many of our PortGens in the past. So I just wanted to also mention, she did a great job on demonstrating the vendor system. And if any of you have participated in PortGen before, you'll hear me preaching, sign up for PortGen. But I also wanted to note that there is a FAQ, how to sign up on Vendor Connect, right in the website on our diversity and contracting page. So it's an easy guide to follow. So for those of you who have not signed up yet. So there you go.
well, thank you, Tina. And Tina, you're going to stick around for the next session.
Yes.
And Tamara, again, thank you so much for all the great information and knowledge, and you'll be a terrific resource for Washington PTAC clients and the Small Business Transportation Resource Center clients. So we look forward to keeping you on our roster for future events. I would like to introduce a few people that we missed the first time around. So give me a second here. And first of all, I'd like to introduce Aisha Kadri from the Small Business Transportation Resource Center. So Aisha, say hello and give us a real quick look at what SBTRC does.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Aisha, and like Leslie said, really quick, I help with the bonding education program, as well as working on a program for women in transportation. And then I also do business consulting, as well as really connecting you guys to anyone that you would need to help run your business throughout the region. So please don't hesitate to reach out, and I'm sure there's a way I can help you.
Thanks, Aisha.
Yeah.
Next, I'd like to introduce Marnie Tyson. She's a colleague of mine from Washington PTAC. And so Marnie, why don't you go ahead and we'll let you do a quick overview of Washington PTAC.
Hi, Marnie Tyson, Washington PTAC. PTAC stands for Procurement Technical Assistance Center. We are your local resource for free guidance and support on anything public contracting, whether it's federal, state, local, subcontracting. We can help assist businesses in their goals, registrations, certifications, where to find solicitations, what do the solicitations mean. We review solicitation responses to make sure you're following the guidelines that you heard earlier in the talk today. Marketing, capability statement, lots of training, networking and outreach. We have a lot of large companies that come to us looking for subcontractors, looking for partners. We're there to help facilitate that. Again, free resource paid for by your tax dollars, located all across the state of Washington, and here for you. Just reach out to washingtonptac.org and find your local consultant. Counselor? What are our types, Leslie?
Yeah. Thanks, Marnie. So with that, I think that we will do a quick recognition of our Port of Seattle partners here. Mr. Mian Rice is here. And so Mian, if you would go ahead and just say hello to this session.
I will if I can get this. Oh, there it is. Hello, everyone. It's good to see everyone. I hope you're having a great afternoon. Excuse my voice. I wanted to, first of all, thank you so much, Leslie and PTAC and SBDRC and Alicia and everybody else who's really helping move the ball forward on behalf of small women minority disadvantaged businesses out there, and putting on programs like this in partnership with us. It's been great. You're going to hear from a wonderful coworker. You've heard from one of my great coworkers, which is Tina Boyd, but you're going to hear another one from Lawrence Coleman to talk a little about the diversity and contracting program. But I want to give some context, little context before we begin in terms of how we got here. And one of the things that I did want to bring up in years past, and it'll be real quick, in years past, the Port of Seattle, from a small business perspective, small business in general, was doing really well, has been doing really well. We were up in the 30% utilization range for major organizations such as the Port of Seattle. There's millions of dollars that come out from a contracting perspective. We were doing really well from a small business effort, yet we are still hearing some concerns from a lot of the community, especially women and minority businesses, that basically said, hey, we're still having some challenges contracting. We started to peel back that onion, and to come to find out, as peeling back the onion, we were down in the single digits in terms of utilization of women minority businesses. And so back in 2016, 2017, 2018, the Port Commission and our executives, we decided to develop a diversity and contracting department, which specifically focused on women and minority participation and see if we can bring those participating numbers up. And what you're going to hear from Mr. Lawrence Coleman is the diversity and contracting program and all the intricacies behind it. And I just wanted to make sure I say this to all of them, all of my staff. They've been working their tails off in terms of really trying to improve utilization on port contracts. And I do want to make sure I compliment them in their efforts. And with that, I just wanted to hand the ball over to Lawrence, unless there's somebody else that you want to introduce, Leslie.
I think we're good to go. So we'll let Lawrence and Tina start this next version of our session today. And with that, I'll just hand it over to both of you. So welcome and thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I echo all the sentiments that Mian does in the great work that you all are doing to see to it that folks are getting information to chase contracts and earn some dollars for their particular companies. This is a workshop that we do quite often, and we like to try to get feedback. So I certainly offer that opportunity at some point, maybe a follow-up, just to make sure that we're giving you what you need as businesses as you pursue work at the Port of Seattle, if you consider pursuing work at the Port of Seattle. Tina is on the line as well, and Tina's welcome to chime in as you see fit, Tina, as I go through the information. But today I'm going to give you a little bit of information about diversity in contracting and how we see to it that folks are getting opportunities. I'm Lawrence Coleman, excuse the A that's missing in manager, but I am the WMBE manager here at the Port of Seattle. My job is to support the inclusion of women and minority businesses on our contracts, which, there's lots of different intricacies as Mian highlighted and getting to opportunities. We're very much connected with our contracting unit, PMs, and just all kinds of ways in different units at the port to see to it that folks are getting opportunities. I wanted to start, we have a new office at the Port of Seattle, and we're getting some folks that are a little confused, and I won't spend a ton of time here, but just wanted to share just how we're kind of separated, if you will. I'd say this is all the umbrella of equity and inclusion. Our unit specifically works in EDD, economic development, and we work connected with contracting. Obviously, just with equity, there's some different elements of community that we touch, but our focus is on diversity in contracting. There's a different unit, OEDI, Office of Equity, Diversity and Inclusion. And I'd say there's some internal work that they do connected to equity, as well as some community equity work. Just know that we're different, certainly support, and we're all kind of on that same track, trying to see to it that folks are afforded opportunities and equity, and they're included in the various complexities and intricacies of the port and how they show up. There's workforce development, which is under OEDI, and their focus is trying to provide opportunities to connect workers to careers, possibly at the port and in the various industries that we work in. But I found it more important than I have in the past to just make sure that folks understand how we're separated a little bit, so we can get people the right information. We're often seeing, as of late, I've been seeing folks end up going to OEDI with contracting questions, and just know that that's not their role. There may be a role that they play in some shape or fashion if needed, but just know that we have a new office, but the work is still under diversity and contracting. Just felt it important to share while I have the captive audience. As Mian alluded to, I won't spend a ton of time here, but you know, we had efforts and programs that were specifically for small businesses, and the thought early on was cast this wide net, and then with that wide net, you get some women and minority businesses to participate. As years progressed, that just wasn't working. You know, we found that folks were still at disparities, our women and minority businesses. So hence came the program, and so now we have a specific intentional effort to include women and minority businesses. With that program, and as Mian had spoke to a little bit, there was a policy directive that actually developed our program. And some of the goals in that policy directive were pretty specific. And so starting with, we used 2016 as a baseline for data, but then 2018 marked the start of the program. And we gave ourselves 5 years to try to increase a couple of areas. And that first area was trying to increase the number of businesses that are working with the Port of Seattle. I don't have the numbers here, but just know back in 2016, we're at roughly about 115, maybe 120 firms that were working with WMBE firms that were working with the Port. And our goal is to try to get to about 350 or so. So trying to triple that number of WMBE businesses that are working with the Port of Seattle. Another important goal that we found was not just the number of businesses, but the percentage of dollars that went to them. Sometimes you'll see agencies where they have just one goal. You know, the Port and community felt it important to have two. And so again, by the 5-year mark, I want to say about 2023, 2024, one of those years, our hope is to be at 15% WMBE utilization. And then finally, one of the, not necessarily a goal, it was an early goal, but now it's a responsibility that each of the divisions and the departments have, is to set individual goals for their units. And then our team, along with some others, are monitoring it to make sure that, you know, responsibility and accountability is shared with WMBE inclusion. So it's some deep thought that went into the program development, trying to see to it that you know, we do our best to achieve these numbers. This is just a snapshot of what we reported in our 2020 annual report, and you can find that on our website, and I'll provide the link later. I won't go through all of these, but just know that in 2020, the Port, on our non-construction spend, we established a 14.4% WMBE utilization goal, and we hit 16%, 16.6%. And in 2021, all the Port divisions on non-construction spend, we set a 16% goal that we're working toward as we speak. This is just a department overview. As Mian had spoke to earlier, I mean, it's a complex place, which means that you gotta have various tools to get to the final number. Some of the items listed here is just some of the ways that we try to see to it that we are doing our due diligence to get to inclusion and better inclusion of women and minority businesses. So community engagement. Trainings are big, so our PortGen series, that's external. In the last couple of years, we've been trying to do a little bit better job internally to provide just more insight to how to find firms and how to better engage current firms on solicitations, and just giving internal Port staff just more information, again, because this is a shared responsibility that we all have. Partnerships, you know, we partner quite a bit with community organizations. You name it, I would say that there's in the region, there's a connection that the Port's made in some way, shape, or fashion. And we're always looking for new ones, and particularly like from industries are super helpful. I'd say promotional opportunities, online resources, kind of in the same bucket. You know, we feel it is important that we discuss and share with community and potential WMBE businesses, you know, where to find opportunities. So we send out a periodic opportunities list. And I know Tamara in the previous session was talking about that and showed you all, you know, how to access it and where it lives. And one of the big engines, if you will, to those opportunities is our Vendor Connect database. And I'll talk a little bit about that toward the end of the presentation. To get to WMBE utilization on the contracting side, we have two programs. One is our WMBE program, which I run, and we use aspirational goals and inclusion plans. And then we also have a DBE program. So anytime we're spending have projects that are federally assisted through USDOT, we implement our DBE program. This is just a little bit of more information about the two programs. I'd say the guiding principle for the WMBE program is the Port Commission Resolution 3737. That established what we're doing now, all of the work that we're doing now, and gives us some guidance that we're following. You'll see aspirational goals on those types of projects. And I'd say the projects types just kind of moving around, pretty much everything at the port that will go out and be advertised can potentially have a WMBE goal on it. Some of the things that we're asking for from our primes are inclusion plans, affirmative efforts in the event that you can't meet the goal. And so affirmative efforts are detailed descriptions of your efforts made and basically rationale as to why you couldn't meet the goal. But we do ask for that in the event that a contractor or consultant can't make the goal at the time of bid. And then over the life of the contract, we do compliance. So we monitor the project, we check in, and need be, we'll may even issue some course correction, some corrective actions that we're asking of our primes if they aren't on track. Dollar values, typically in that $200,000 space, and it's important to note that there has to be subcontracting available. So we'll put goals on there when there's subcontracting opportunities available. Certification for the Port of Seattle, you can be self-identified or be certified by a government agency. Either one is fine for us. We spell that out in the solicitation, but I also have a link here that'll give you take you to a glossary where you can find how we define a self-identified firm. On the other side of the house, as I had mentioned, anytime we're getting dollars from USDOT, FAA, we'll implement our DBE program. Guiding principle there is 49 CFR Part 26, spells out all of the specific things that we are to be doing to be in compliance with USDOT. The goal types, you'll see mandatory goals. So unlike when we put our WMBE goals on projects where they're aspirational, still they become, on the WMBE side, they still become a part of the contract. So they're still supposed to meet them. But there's some different avenues that we take to provide opportunities for firms pursuing to tell us if they can't meet the goal. And so where I would say on the DBE side, it becomes a condition of award. So you have to meet that goal, the DBE goal, at the time of bid. And there are some things that you can tell us in terms of if you can't meet the goal, called good faith effort, but it's very prescriptive, because again, this is what the FAA USDOT wants, for you to be very prescriptive and follow what their guidelines are to be in compliance. You'll still see inclusion plans from our primes. You'll see what we call good faith efforts, as I had mentioned, if you cannot meet the goal. And then over the course of the project, contract compliance. But again, kind of in keeping with that same prescriptive and detailed methodology, USDOT does require that we do some visits, some on-site visits called commercial useful functions, just to make sure that the firms are doing the work that they said they were doing. Contract types, A&E construction, and generally pretty high dollar values. I'd say projects that are over $1 million. And right now we're only doing projects that are airport, airfield, runway type of projects. And again, you're only going to see goals when there's subcontracting of it. And then my last mention is certification. So to be counted on a project that has a DBE goal, the firm must be certified with the Office of Women and Minority Business Enterprises as a DBE at the time of bid. And just another note, just really quick before I get into to this slide, I can't see any questions, so unless someone chimes in, I'll just take them at the end. Inclusion plans. So being that this is focused on A&E, professional and personal services, I felt it important to give a discussion just a little bit about inclusion plans. So as you all are chasing anything with an RFP, you're going to see what we call inclusion plans when we have WMBE goals on them. And what those are it's a detailed strategy that tells the Port of Seattle how you're going to support and include women and minority businesses. And so there's a series of questions that we ask to try to tease that out. For our prime contractors chasing them, especially if you've never chased a project with an inclusion plan, it could be a challenge. And so the thought here is just to give a little bit of information on what we would look for. For one, as I mentioned, inclusion plans are detailed, so we're looking for substantive responses. So responses that are vague and just kind of provide fluff, those score lower. We rate in the same way that with the marginal from outstanding on down to unacceptable, in the same adjectival way that we do on the technical side. So just keep that in mind. So these are rated in a separate way. I heard Tamara mention in the previous section about just a little bit information about the process. And I would say this is it's still part of the process, but it's considered in the same way. And so you'll see A has a stronger weight than B, and C is less than A, for example. And so just keep that in mind. This is a very important part of selection and weighting as we make contract selections. But moving back on to just a little bit about inclusion plans. Sometimes we see responses that come back again that are weak and don't offer enough information. We're very much interested in projects and your approach to, say, on-call contracts. IDIQ is what we call them: indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. But the thought there is to get prime contractors to think about a backup plan. So I'd say as you're putting together an inclusion plan, give some thoughts to how you're going to make some adjustments if your goal is not, if your goal gets off track. I'd say work with your team to again, be detailed about your internal processes. And this may even be an opportunity for you to actually fix those processes. Sometimes, the best kinds of programs and the best adjustments are made when you are actively pursuing, because you've never thought of something in that way. And I'd say more public agencies going towards this route, where it's not just meeting the goal, but it's telling more about these various internal processes, such as payment disputes, how you're going to pay firms, be they small business or WMBE. And so just taking the time to articulate what internal processes you have. Make sure that you understand what the court wants for prompt pay in the solicitation. It's important for us for you to acknowledge that we're very much interested in making sure that our firms get paid on time. And so 10 days is what the port is expecting. So from the time that you get paid, we're expecting that you pay your subs within 10 days. And then my final note is for any WMBE prime that is chasing a project to fill out the inclusion plan in its entirety, just as you were a non-WMBE prime. Sometimes we get inclusion plans that come back from WMBE primes that say I'm a WMBE. But again, we're trying to do two things. We're trying to see that you made the goal, and we're also trying to see that you have a support system, a strategy in place to support and include women and other women and minority businesses. So keep that in mind. some outreach best practices, I'd say, for our prime contractors that are going down this path. Use a certified database. I'd say it's a great place to start when you're looking for women in minority businesses. If I had to guess, my last look, there was probably about 2,800 firms, and obviously in all different kinds of categories. But leverage that database. It's there for your free to use, and for your in hopes that you're going to partner with some firms. I do like there's a business description, and you might not see that in others, and so it's a valuable tool that's been around for years. You've heard Vendor Connect pop up a couple of times from Port folks, and we continuously are making improvements to it. But here you'll find firms that are certified, as well as firms that self-identify. So I'd say our Vendor Connect database is growing to be a valuable resource to our prime contractors looking to partner. Engage with WMBE or MBE organizations. Off the top of my head, National Association of Minority Contractors comes to mind. Tabor 100 comes to mind. You can do a quick Google search on Seattle MBA support organizations and see what you come up with. But I'd say those two, for example, provide some invaluable support to prime contractors. They have memberships and they support their members pretty well. But I would encourage you, if you're looking for firms, to engage MBE organizations. Post ads electronically. PTAC, I'm not sure if you all, I want to say you all are still in the allow firms to prime contractors to post contracting opportunities. And if not, my apologies. But I do remember at a time there were an opportunity to post ads there. OMWBE, Tabor 100, other MBE organizations, your chambers, there's ethnic chambers. But I'd say getting your project visible is at the core of what I'm getting at. And sometimes a phone call may not be enough, but you want to make sure that you're leveraging all kinds of ways to, see to it that firms are aware of your contracting opportunities. Log your attempts and engagement. Especially if you get to a place where you may need to say that you can't meet the goal. It's so you're not going backwards. And so log your attempts, log your engagement, be detailed about what you tried and what didn't work. And I would do that over the course of outreach, in particular when you're chasing a project. And then lastly, I've been taking a look at OMWBE. Shout out to OMWBE and the work they've been doing with supplier diversity. But they put together a website with some tools on inclusion as it relates to contracting. And one of the tools and the resources that they put together that I really like is the inclusion plans. And there's a video on them. And I'd encourage you to take a look at it, but I'd say it's general in nature and general enough to provide any prime contractor some support that's chasing a project with another public agency. So if you haven't done so, I'd certainly encourage you to take a look at their website on inclusion plans. Just a little information for subs that are chasing work with the port. Know what the agency's values and commitments are to inclusion. I'm a bureaucrat, and I'd say the port is committed. I'd say all public agencies are committed, but there's sometimes some things in the way of that commitment. So I would encourage you to reach out to public agencies and learn a little bit more about the values, commitment, who's responsible, how offices are tied to executive leadership, how decisions get made. So it's important for you all to really take some time, when you have it, to just have a deeper understanding of what the agency values as it relates to inclusion. Know what your prime rights in the inclusion plan, I think, is important, because once at the Port of Seattle, if we award someone, that inclusion plan now becomes a part of the contract. And there's times that we may need to reference back to it. We can say, hey, you committed to blah, blah, blah. in terms of support. And I see you're under the gold. Did you offer this kinds of support? And so it's important as a sub to understand what's written in the inclusion plan. And I'd say a lot of the prime consultants that I engage with are more than happy to share. And so don't be shy. I would certainly encourage you to ask what's going to go in the inclusion plan. Know what certification requirements are at various public agencies, so not just with the port. As I mentioned earlier, we allow for self-identification. And so then we also have a DBE program that requires a DBE certification. King County, for example, they have a SES program, which is something different. Municipalities may have something different. So it's important that you know what the various certifications are and how you're going to show up there. And keeping with that, understand how your firm is going to count based on how you identify. The link is here to our program that spells out, and it has a couple other resources, but you can find our glossary on how we define self-identified firms. Let's see. Again, I mentioned this earlier. WMBE firms are still required to complete the inclusion plan, and so put the same details and efforts in as if you are a non-WMBE firm and you're looking to partner with other WMBE firms. Attend pre-bid, pre-proposal meetings. I sometimes go to pre-bid and pre-proposal meetings, and there are no WMBE firms there. And that's a good time to learn about the project. You got decision makers there. You have folks that are bidding. You have buyers from other companies, and so it's important to let those that are in attendance know that you're available in that space to work. And so I would love to see more women and minority businesses show up at these pre-bid, pre-proposal meetings. I have seen some deals made, and I've eventually seen folks that show up on the proposal. So it's important to find the time to send a rep or yourself go to pre-bid, pre-proposal meetings. Insurance requirements. In the first session, Tamara had talked a little bit about the port being a complex place. We have a lot of high dollar value items. You're on a runway potentially with a multi-million-dollar aircraft. And so it's important to understand what insurance requirements are. She talked a little bit about some of those hidden costs that may show up for you. So again, just a reminder, know what the insurance requirements are as you chase work for the port. And then lastly, understand what procurement thresholds are. There are opportunities that don't get advertised. Sometimes those come based on relationship, so we may have some small, a small contract, that needs to be taken care of, some small work, some short work, that's just one task. And so understand what various procurement thresholds are at the public agencies. So for us, we have a category 1, category 2, category 3. Category 1 projects are, I want to say, under 50,000. Category 2 is between 50 and 199. And then category 3 is essentially 300 and above. And so just keep that in mind. Not all projects, but those smaller ones get advertised on the street, as we say, so on that vendor connect side. Vendor Connect, I know it was mentioned here, and I won't go into detail here, but just know it's an important tool for you to show up. It lets anyone looking for a firm to partner with know that you're available. There's some areas where you can identify your business credentials. You can identify as WMBE, whether you're self-identified or certified. Your industry code, which is NAICS code for us, helps us categorize you. So when folks are looking for something specific, you can show up there. And we also house our various rosters here. So our small works roster, and I'm not sure where we're at with goods and services and consultant rosters, but just know if we do have a roster, it's going to live here. This is a little bit more information about Vendor Connect. We've included the link there. And again, I appreciate Tamara earlier showing, just walking you all through what Vendor Connect looks like, but you'll see lots of good information here. And I'd say this is the starting place if you are interested in working on a Port of Seattle project. So you'll learn upcoming solicitation dates, pre-bid meetings, pre-proposal meetings, events calendar. You know, sometimes we do different kinds of events connected to projects, especially some of our larger ones, and you'll see them housed there. There is a guide that's available, and in this presentation, this link is live, which takes you to this guide and walks you through how to register for Vendor Connect. This is our team. I appreciate me and support up at the top. You know, he advocates and moves mountains, and I think sometimes folks don't get a chance to see it, but we're grateful for his leadership. There's myself. Again, I manage the WMBE side of the house. Tina Boyd, she kind of straddles both in supporting our disadvantaged business program, as well as the WMBE program, and also coordinates PortGens. Michael Robertson's still listed here by mistake, but he's no longer with us, but just know there'll be another person that fills this role. But our senior admin assistant role, also assistant outreach and being our point of contact, getting information to you, getting information. So just know that role will be filled. And while Michael was here, certainly a great asset to the team, and but certainly looking forward to adding someone else in that role. With that, I'll pause here and take questions. I appreciate you all taking a listen.
Hey, Lawrence, it's Marnie.
Hey, Marnie.
Hold on, let me get that video going again. There we go. Hi, I just wanted to say hi. Nice seeing you again. It's been a while.
It's good seeing you.
And yes, PTAC still does offer posting for primes.
Awesome.
But, networking events as well as subcontractor calls. We just revamped our website a little bit in the webinar area. And I know currently we have Vigor. I don't know if anybody knows this, but Vigor has just won an award for Washington State ferries, the hybrid, making them hybrids. They'll be building 8 new hybrid ferries, and they're going to be hosting a networking event. They're in desperate hunt for small Washington-based businesses to participate in the design as well as the build when that starts happening. But all that's on our website, and yeah, we do welcome that interaction between the large and the small and helping everybody work together.
Awesome. I see a question here from Leslie, and Leslie, feel free to articulate if needed. The question is, does the Port of Seattle work with Washington State Department of Enterprise Services for procurement resources? To my knowledge, no, but I'll certainly ask you to clarify. But yeah, no, we're our own entity. I'm not sure if we leverage any, what do you call it, like state master contracts. To my knowledge, I'm not. I don't believe so. If that's where you're going. Would you like to clarify, Leslie?
Well, mostly just, you know, if there was any interaction at all with DES, but also, yeah, we promote a lot of resources for small businesses. And another one that we encourage them to participate in is the MRSC rosters. And do you guys use that at all, leverage it, or are listed on there, or anything in regards to subcontractors?
Not to my knowledge. I say all of our opportunities are housed on Vendor Connect.
Okay. And then I have another question. What advantage is there to be a WMBE certified as opposed to being self-certified if you accept either?
We accept either.
And so why should I go through the trouble of being certified if I can just self-certify?
Well, certification is for all. It covers your bases. You don't know how you're going to engage with that prime contractor. There are some prime contractors that may require that you have certification to work with them. However, the port allows for self-identification. I'd say the value of certification certainly provides you the opportunity to work anywhere. As I mentioned earlier, you can self-identify here, but maybe at another public entity, they need certification. So there's certainly still some value in certification. We're just saying that for the Port of Seattle, you can self-identify or be certified.
Well, that's encouraging, especially, for smaller companies that may not have the background or experience to get through the certification process, but initially, can maybe find a niche within the Port of Seattle. At the federal level, you can self-certify in some areas, but the reality is, any primes and stuff, to be a prime contractor, you would need to be third-party certified or SBA certified as a woman-owned business, or, the minority side of things. But anyway, and part of that has to do with the previous decades of fraud that the federal government found in particularly with woman-owned small businesses that were just a false front for traditional business not owned by a woman. So anyway, I guess it's reassuring to me to see that there are still opportunities that you can be self-certified on, but realistically, as you move through government contracting, the certification is probably the ultimate goal, be it, woman business or minority owned, or, any or all of the above. And at the federal level, it's socially and economically disadvantaged. And, that's something that we try to explain to our clients, that, based on your religion or your color of your skin, but it also looks at your bank account to see, whether you really do need a lift up, in moving forward. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Lawrence, does your program take veteran-owned businesses into consideration?
Not for goal counting at the moment. We have started to take a look at how they could potentially show up. But from the onset, to be real, we just started with what we thought was the greatest need was to incorporate women and minority businesses. But the resolution, as I spoke to earlier, know what an agency values as it relates to inclusion. And then if you take a look at our resolution that eventually came a policy directive, we do call out veteran-owned businesses. And so, but we are taking a look at it, trying to see how we're going to eventually incorporate veteran-owned businesses.
Excellent.
Hi, Lawrence. I was just curious on the 5-year benchmark to 15% of spending on WMBE within 5 years. Is that starting somewhere this fiscal year, or is that something that's been going for a couple? And how close are we to 15?
Yeah, we started in 2018, so tracking it towards that goal. I want to say the first year out was 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So in 18 is when we started. We hover at about 13 and a half, anywhere between 12 and a half, at least the last 2 years, 12 and a half to 13 and a half. And so still got some ways to go. We need our prime consultants and contractors to help out in that lift and partnering and including more women and minority businesses. So we are in the 3rd year of that 5-year benchmark.
Thank you. I was just curious. I'm a numbers guy.
Yeah, and that information there's in greater detail on our, when you take a look at the presentation, you'll see a link that takes you to the Port of Seattle's diversity and contracting site. We have our annual report there. And just know every year we report out to the public and to our commission on utilization.
Well, thank you, Lawrence. This has been a real eye opener. And, you know, for some of the old timers, you know, it's a good refresher. So we appreciate your time and your effort in getting your message across today. And, you know, we'd like to thank you and Mian both for being here and for your continued support on this project. All of these sessions are recorded and we are posting them. They're on YouTube. Videos are being posted simultaneously through SBTRC and Washington PTAC. And, you know, we'll be happy to send you all the links, you know, if you are interested in posting those on your website also.
Sounds good.
So
Well, we appreciate the partnership.
well, thank you so much. So if we have no more questions, we're a little bit early, but usually nobody complains about that. If you can finish up earlier, I'd like to thank my partners in crime here, Marnie from PTAC and Aisha from SBTRC, and Andrew, who's the ultimate right-hand guy here, right-hand man. So thank you so much for everybody to join us. And we look forward to our goods and services track on Thursday. And actually the Department of Enterprise Services will be here on Thursday also, which will be a good opportunity to kind of tap into them and see what's new and exciting for DES. So Aisha, any last words you'd like to make?
No, just thank you all for being here. And we definitely look forward to seeing you on Thursday.
Thanks, Aisha.
Thank you.
Okay, well, with that, we'll call it a day and we'll stop the recording. I'd like to thank Joe and Andrew and Lisa and Lily, who sat in here kind of in stealth mode. But thank you, and we look forward to seeing you down the road. Thank you.